Welcome back. I'm Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. This is part 2 of A Very Merry Christmas by Hunkydory. Just in case anyone's tuning into part 2 first, I want to remind you that we're using the Very Merry Christmas luxury kit from Hunkydory. We're also using a Very Merry Christmas inserts and paper pack. If you want to get the number of cards that we're showing in this video, you'll need to have both the paper pack and the luxury kit. And since there's 2 of everything in this ginormous Very Merry Christmas luxury pack, if you're buying the full set, you'll need 2 of these paper packs to match. First card set we're going to take a look at here is called A Classic Christmas. It's got this charming old green car and a vintage kind of feel to the topper, so it's just beautiful. There's our base layer, 3 nice greetings and 2 borders with some really nice cut-off strips. Here's our layering sheet. Lots and lots of pieces with this layering sheet. Love, love, love this background paper. Isn't that gorgeous? This is the cardstock. Here's our double-sided paper. Beautiful image and some great backgrounds on this side, and that nice tartan kind of plaid on the back of this side, and our insert sheet. Let's take a look what we did with it. I think we'll start with this image off the background sheet. You can see that all I've done here is this is a 4x6 card. I have covered it with gold mirror board, and then I have matted, cut this off, just like that. I matted this with some of this green to kind of get some additional dimension. I covered that with snowfall acetate, using our dots on the back, using the best glue ever. Let that dry into tiny glue dots, and then applying my acetate so there's no lines to cover up. And our little tag. This one I did not line because it's on that nice Anita's pearlescent card, and it's quite pretty and kind of matched nicely anyway, so I didn't line that one. Here's our 3 layered cards. I think these all look great. We'll look at where we've taken those from. Just wanted to show you all 3 to start with. Okay, starting with our background cardstock. I covered a 4x8 card, and then I did something kind of unusual with this one that I thought was kind of fun. In this case, I did not cover the entire sheet with snowfall acetate. I took a small piece of snowfall acetate, dropped it in behind my scene. Just to give it kind of a finished look, I put a thin line gold sticker across the top, and then I put my warmest wishes tag above that, and I just thought that was a fun and interesting effect, just to create a smaller topper here, using my acetate and that gold line to do that. Isn't that pretty? My next card is also covered using this background piece, and in this case I have covered a USA 6 card, which is 5x6.5. We have those in the store. I've had a few people say, I don't know where to get 5x6.5. We have them for you. We have those in a nice big pack or smaller packs. I've taken my topper and I have matted it with a piece of gold mirror board, and I just put my label on there. Lined it with my insert sheet. And our final one, I really like this one too. I had this scene, and I took another piece of this. This is the double-sided paper. I covered my card with the double-sided paper. I put down a small piece of my snowfall acetate, and then I layered my layers on top of that. Only other things I've done here was to add this saying, "Driving home for Christmas," up on some foam tape, put some little sprigs around it, and I did use a border piece at the top of that. But isn't that charming? Love that. So pretty. And then in this case, I actually lined the inside. Oh, this is a piece of the tartan plaid out of the tartan plaid paper pack by Adorable Scorable. Didn't have to use it, just thought it was fun, so I did. There we go. That's those cards. Now, before we move on, I wanted to show you what this would look like if I made one card out of the set instead of the 4 or the 3 that I've just shown you. This is what that card looks like if you do it Hunkydory's way, and it is stunning, I have to say. It's beautiful. But this is what you would get if you used the base layer, put all of the layering sheets on one card. You can see how thick that is. And then I just used a piece of my cardstock. Down here, I wanted something to just kind of tie it a little bit, so in this case I used one of my cut-off pieces, and I don't know if you can see that there. I actually matched my pattern, because I had a nice long piece, so I matched my pattern to the plaid in the background. I thought that was pretty. So this is with all of the layers, and you can see there is some difference. Now, the good news here is you get 3 cards out of one set. The good news here is that it's absolutely beautiful. So you have to kind of decide what you want to do. I usually opt for getting more cards, but I wanted to show you what it looked like if you did all of your layers on one card. Done this way, this large luxury set will make a total of 24 cards. Done the way that I'm showing you, you'll get somewhere in the, just from this, not counting the cards from the paper pack, you will get somewhere in the area of 32 or thereabouts cards. So you decide what you, well, 32 twice actually, so that'd be 64 cards versus 24. But I wanted to show you both ways. It's always kind of fun to mix and match them too, and do a few one way, do a few the other. This is what you have left, and this is one of the reasons why I do multiple cards. You have all these wonderful supplies left over if you make just one card. So you make the choices, but I wanted to show you what they look like both ways. Our next set is called Robin Redbreast. Here's our base layer. Beautiful little robin with holly in the bird bath. Really pretty. Wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas is down the side, that nice border. Here's our layering pieces. You'll note these layering pieces are also very large. So we're going to get 2 cards out of this pack, plus we're going to do the additional card out of the double-sided paper. This is one of the reasons why I opted for 2 cards. See our little bird here? He's actually fairly small, and it wasn't really practical to just try and make... I could have made a card out of just him, but I opted instead to combine him with another image. We'll take a look at it. Here's our insert sheet. Here's our beautiful double-sided paper. These images on the double-sided paper are just as beautiful, although they don't have the filing. They're just as beautiful as the actual paper pack. Look at all that wonderful holly on the back. Let's take a look at our cards. I mentioned this, so let me start here. This is the card that I made using that corner piece. So I thought that little robin, he's just tiny there. And what I did instead is just create a card that had 2 robins on it. I added one of my layered up pieces, and I like the way this turned out. This one's on a 6x6 card. I've just covered my card with my cardstock. Put my little insert in the inside. cute. Using those little sprigs to kind of pull everything together. I thought this needed a little something because this robin was so short and it kind of looked vacant here. So I used my little sprigs to build it up a little bit behind him. Here's my other layered card. This is the one that's actually done on the base sheet. Obviously, I covered my my blank card with a, which is an USA 6, 5 by 6.5. And I covered that with a piece of my cardstock and then just put my base sheet over the top of that. Little Christmas wishes right off of the punch-out sheet. I think he's really cute. And finally, let's take a look at what we did with that double-sided paper. In this case, I've used I believe this is an A2. An A2 card. I've covered it with gold mirror board. I cut out my topper slightly smaller so that you could see my board, my gold mirror board all the way around the edge. I cut my little trim strip to fit the size of the reduced image, and I used that trim strip to hide my tape line from adding acetate over the top of that. I think it's such a simple card, but it was so pretty. Used my little sprigs and a season's greeting out of my 2017 sentiments book. That one's not lined. Next up we have Let's Build a Snowman. Cute little kids, the dog on the sled, all putting the snowman together. Nice friendly looking snowman. We've got 3 sentiments and a couple nice borders on there, as well as some nice corners to surround our round image. Here's our layering levels, or layering pieces. A couple more nice sentiments on here. Have a holly jolly Christmas and let it snow, as well as a little button here. Pieces with the kids and the dog. Here's our side treatment on our background cardstock. Here's our double-sided paper. The charming snowman in the corner. Nice blue in the back. Pretty. And we have a nice insert for that. Let's take a look what we've done with them. Let's do the double-sided paper first. In this case, I have covered a 5x5 card with the Snowfall mirror board, not to be confused with the Snowfall acetate. This is the Snowfall mirror. You can just kind of see it around the edges a little bit here. Certainly wouldn't have to use that mirror board for a background on this one the way I've trimmed it. It might have been nice actually, since I'm using that nice mirror board in the back, to let a little bit more of it show and make my image slightly smaller, which I certainly could have done in this case. I have cut out my corner. I have framed that with a little bit of silver mirror board. I added my snowflake, on which I've put the silver jewel dazzles, and then I just sprinkled a few little silver jewel dazzles around to make it look like it's snowing. I think it's a really, really cute card. On the inside, I just used my insert paper. I used one of my little throwaway strips to add this nice silver line across here and that little button. I think that's really cute. Next up, we have the cards that were created out of the layering pieces. Here's another 5x5 round card. Excuse me, a 5x5 square card with my round topper. In this case, I brought in those corners to square it off. And I've covered this with just my background card of my piece with the image on it. And I think that's really cute. It just doesn't need a lot. Inside, here's my insert paper and one of those large greetings. Kept my card smaller by putting that greeting to the outside. I could have used a 5x7 card and put the greeting on the outside had I chosen to do so. Here's another one where I've used a piece of that snowfall mirror board. I covered my card with snowfall mirror. I ran it through my machine and cut the circle out. I used 2 of my circle dies together to create this little trim around the window. I'm finding that I really like it when I do that because it just kind of gives a more finished look to the aperture. Remember, aperture is just a fancy way of saying the hole you cut in the card. In this case, I've actually attached my acetate to the back using our acetate technique, the best glue ever. Let those glue dots dry, slap them right up against there, you don't see the glue lines. And on the inside of my card, I wanted a nice sky piece, so I lined the inside of my card with a blue cardstock, and so the incomplete image, where you don't have the full round, gives you a complete image from the outside. Isn't that pretty? And it looks great. There we go. That one's done. And our final one is just covered using the background cardstock. In this case, I have added my topper. Now you'll note that the topper actually comes a little bit wider than the image on the cardstock. You're not doing anything wrong when it layers over that way. It's just the way that it's made. I actually kind of like the fact that it overlaps this line a little bit. But this is right off of here, and then I've layered it up with layering pieces. On this one, I wanted to see what would happen if I put the snowfall acetate over a layered image. And you can see it does stand up a little bit. It actually looks terrific, and it has a nice finished appearance. So I've put my acetate over the top of everything. I've anchored it with my border, or I've taped it at the top, and then I've disguised my tape line with the border strip. Added my little "with love" at Christmas. And my little sprigs coming out. I think it looks great. So you can put the acetate on over the outside. On the inside, I still had that nice little lettuce snow, so I took my pretty insert and added a couple sprigs, and I love the inside as much as the outside of this card. That's it.
Yes, you can go now.
Oh, well, I didn't know you started. Okay, next up is the Winter on the Canal. This has this charming little boat, and it appears that he is delivering Christmas trees on the canals using his little boat here. It's really a nice landscape scene with the boat in the foreground. Wishing you the very best of Christmas seasons, and a couple little borders, nice cutoff pieces. Here's our layering sheets. You'll notice that these are fairly good size again. Here is our adorable scoreable matching cardstock. I love this one. Look at those lavender snowflakes and the purple border with the snow. It's pretty. Here's our double-sided sheet. A nice mottled purple on this side. And the soft green snowflakes on the back, very pretty. And here's our insert sheet. Same soft lavenders. Let's see what we did with them. Because these pieces are large, and because we did not have a border or an image on our background sheet, this piece is done with just 2 cards out of the base layers, plus the double-sided sheet. We've used the the border piece from here. Layered this up on, I actually, let's see, nope, that's connected. Yeah, this is all their layering pieces and little snowflake. I used the snowfall acetate over the top, put a border strip down here, and it's actually anchored behind the boat here. So see, even though these edges are loose, it's absolutely fine. It's nice and sturdy to the card there. On the inside, there's our little matching insert. Next up, I think this one's really pretty. And this one I have used in, excuse me, I didn't tell you the size of that last one. I believe that last one, this would be an A7, which is 5 by 7. You can see that it's just slightly longer than the USA 6. This time I've used the USA 6. I've covered my card in Silver Mary. I've cut my cardstock to be slightly smaller. Then I've used those corner pieces off of my base sheet to give this a nice oval look overall. I've used the one that doesn't have a big background. It gets that soft, snowy background, and put my larger label across the top. I think that turned out really pretty. Matching insert. And I used a little piece here of my this is actually, I believe, part of the, I'm sure it is, the cutoff piece. It just happened to be extra wide on this one, and I used it across the top just to give a kind of a pretty accent, and I grabbed that silver border. And finally, here's the one off the double-sided sheet, little A2 card. We've added snowfall acetate across the top. I actually anchored the snowfall acetate under this long label at the top, and that's all it needed. It didn't need a lot of other, because it's a small light card. Have a holly jolly Christmas, and that nice double-sided paper on the back. Pretty. Next up we have Toy Shop Treasures. This nice little scene of the children looking through the toy shop window, bike in the foreground. Nice sentiments, a couple nice borders, some good cutoff strips. Here's our layering pieces. Lots of nice layers for this one. Now in this one, they did give us a side treatment, but it doesn't match that scene, so we had to do this one a little bit differently. And look at the double-sided paper in this case. It's a great big scene. In fact, even if you use an A5, it's still going to be a little bit extra large. But I'm anxious to show you what I did with this. I actually made 2 cards out of this one. Oh, and the back has a pretty red pattern. And there's our insert. Here's what we made out of this double-sided paper. I took this much. I covered a 4x6 card. 4x6 is more important in this case because this paper is 8 1/4 inches wide. So I made 2 4x6 cards. And so I covered a 4x6 card with gold mirror board. I cut this to just slightly smaller than 4x6 so that my gold would show around the edges. Just put a label on it, and I liked it. I left it just like that. I thought that was cute. Next up, here's the other side. I could still capture the bicycle, the little boy looking through the toy shop window, and I thought that was really cute too. Another 4x6 card. Covered my card in gold mirror board, added my Merry Christmas out of the 2017 Sentiments pack, and I thought that was adorable, just like it was. Okay, here's the first of our layering images. Made up the smaller image. I actually used a piece of cardstock left over from one of the other sets to complete this part, this little sideboard kind of paper, and I actually used this part off of, that was a little set I had left, or a little piece I had left off another set, because I just thought those complemented this image really nicely, and it allowed me to use up some scraps. I used my border strip across here. I used this little label off of my cutout sheet. I put some sprigs here, and I glittered those sprigs, and I just thought it was really cute. Really, really cute. It's not lined. a total of 5 cards from this set. Here's the base layer they provided, layered up nicely. So all of my layering pieces went into these 2 cards. You can see maybe there's a little bit more dimension in these 2 because all of my layering pieces are on these 2 cards. And I just used my background sheet, my border strips. Here's one of my throwaway strips that I've recaptured and put across the bottom just to give me kind of a finished look across the bottom. Have a fun-filled festive season. This is on USA 6, a 5 by 6.5 inch card. And I didn't have a large piece of my insert paper left, so I created a mat out of the back of my double-sided paper and created a little framed place to write on the inside. I think that's really pretty. And finally, here's the edge of my cardstock piece. In this one, I have used this is an European A6, just about 4 by 6. In this case, I have covered it in gold mirror board. I have added a little strip across here, just kind of make that a little bit fancier and add some gold to it. I put my gold trimmed label up here. And then just for fun, I added some of those little Nouveau dimensional drops on my tree. And in this case, I think that really adds a surprising amount of dimension when you're actually looking at this card. Just those little tiny, and hopefully you can see it on camera, I just used a little dot in the center of those as if I was covering just the light bulb. But I think it turned out really pretty. So 5 cards out of that set. This is actually perhaps one of my favorite themes from the whole set. This is called Santa's Sleigh Ride. Here's our base layer. With love this festive season, have a merry little Christmas. Santa Claus is coming soon. Hope Santa brings you everything you wished for. This nice pretty little border along the side with, those are bows and wreaths and nice cut-off pieces. This is a really pretty set. So you got this wonderfully detailed set here. Here's our layering pieces. Ho, 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 Christmas wishes label. Lots of nice layering pieces. Here's our side cardstock. Whoops. Cardstock piece. Beautiful with a nice neutral background. Here's our insert sheet, repeating that pattern. And look at this. This one caused me to stop and really think about it, because isn't that a beautiful scene? I did not want to chop it up. So I didn't. Let me show you what I did, but I used it all. Let me show you what I made from this one. Okay, this is what I did with it. I love this Santa scene, and yet the Santa scene was too big to cover the face of a standard card and keep the outside pieces. So what I did is I built my own card base. I took a piece of adorable scoreable. It doesn't matter what color it is because I covered the entire thing. And then I scored it. I cut it to 6 inches wide. I scored it at 2 inches, at 3 inches. This face piece is 5.5 inches wide, so that would be 8.5 inches. Then I scored it again at 9.5 inches, and I scored it again, or I cut it off actually, at 11.5 inches. So there was a little tiny strip left over on the end here. And then I took this piece out of this on the center, and I covered my front panel. And that was just wide enough to capture Santa and all his reindeer. And then I thought, you know, since this neighborhood is going to be in the folds of the card, it doesn't really matter if it matches exactly. This first one does match exactly. I cut a 2-inch piece, and added this house. I cut a 1-inch piece. Don't try and fold it, just cut it off. I cut a 1-inch piece and put in here. And then I came over here and I came back the other way. I cut a 2-inch piece for this panel. I cut a 1-inch piece for this panel, and I had a little tiny sliver left that I threw away. Now this house right here is incomplete, but nobody's ever going to know that, because when the card stands up, you don't see that panel at all. It looks finished if you look at it, but nobody's going to notice that that house is not complete. When I finished with that, I did some wonderful glitter work all over it, because this was one that just cried out for glitter, and especially since this piece is not layered, I thought some nice glitter work was appropriate. Then I took some silver jewel dazzle strips, borders, and I bordered along my seams, here and here. I took a piece of 6 by 5.5 snowfall acetate I put across the top. I anchored it at the top and used this piece right here is actually a cutoff piece from the outside of my silver jewel dazzles sticker sheet. It's a throwaway piece, but it worked great for this purpose. And my join for my acetate, my tape line for my acetate is hid under that sticker. I added "Have a Merry Little Christmas," and didn't that turn out beautiful? Now this will fold back on itself and fit nicely into a 6 by 6 envelope. But didn't that turn out fun? That was a fun card to make. And I love the fact that I was able to use that whole big pretty scene. If you didn't want to make the great big scenes on the A5 cards that I made earlier, you could use a similar technique for those cards to be able to use more of the image and still have a complete looking scene. Next up, I used another one of those fun card deco dies from Find It Trading. This happens to be number 3, and I wanted to show you how pretty this is. Lots of people opted for the 1s and 2s when we did our last video because that's what I demonstrated, but take a look at this one. It looks great. So I just ran my, I guess that's purple, my purple cardstock through my die cutting machine. Using that die, it scores it inherently right on the back side there. And then, because I had a really sparkly scene here, I thought it would be fun to add some glitter along the edges. So I used my tattered lace with this fine tip applicator. And when you make this card, there's actually a little indent that creates right along the edge. So I used that indent as my guide and just glued lightly all the way around the edge. Put some nice Angel Whispers glitter on there and let it dry. And didn't that turn out pretty? I hope that captures on camera, because that frame is really, really pretty with the glitter around the outside. Of course, that called for glittering up my topper set, which I did as I assembled it. And besides that, in the Santa scene, we needed glitter. So we've got nice glitter on the house top and along the roof line and the trees. It's pretty. And then I added this little border here to just kind of finish things off. And I think that turned out spectacularly. Now, by the time that I got to this point in my card making, I'll show you my other cards. I didn't have a large enough piece of insert paper left, so I created a kind of an insert patterned sheet. I used leftover pieces from this cardstock from where I had cut it, and I used leftover pieces of my, this piece. I used a couple little trim strips here, and I just assembled something that was wide enough to create a nice insert, and I think that looks beautiful, and that's all scraps. 2 more. Here's our other little layered card. I'm using an A2 card with that same background piece we just used. And I'm just adding my card layer on top. I used a little throwaway piece of trim here and put my With Love over the top of that to just kind of create a finished look. Lined it inside with my insert paper. Cute. And finally, here's my side scene. Used a 4x8 card and I covered it with my layered up topper. I added Merry Christmas, a few snowflakes, put some dazzle jewels, silver jewels, dazzles on the inside of my snowflakes, and it just didn't need anything else. It was so pretty. There's my insert. Absolutely beautiful. That's it. How's this for a collection of cards? Now bear in mind, with this full-size kit from Hunkydory, A Very Merry Christmas, this comes with 2 each of 12 designs. What I've demoed here is 1 each of 12 designs. We got 46 cards out of half of this kit and 1 pack of the double-sided papers and inserts. If we had done all of them, no, it was 44. I'm sorry, it's 44 cards out of half of this and 1 pack of papers and inserts. Had we done them all the same way, there would be 88 cards out of 1 luxury kit and 2 packs of papers and inserts. So this is an enormous kit when you make it the way that we've made these. One thing I want to talk about with these layered cards is that I strongly recommend when you're storing these cards that they be stored in one of these little card sleeves from Hunkydory. These are inexpensive. We have them in all of the major card sizes. They're really easy to use. You can put your matching envelope right into your sleeve. You slide in your card. It is resealable. You just simply peel it, close it. If you want to show your card to somebody, you can easily open them and then reseal it after showing your card. It stays sticky. And when they're in your card box, these are not going to catch on one another. It's not going to allow your layers to catch on each other, which is going to tear your cards up if they're in and out of the box very much. And they're going to be in and out of the box because you're going to want to show off your beautiful creations. And you're going to be wanting to flip through to decide which card to give to. Oh, there goes the cascade, the domino effect. If you're not already signed up for a newsletter, be sure to do that. Newsletter recipients get a notice that new videos have been posted. They also get a supplies list with links to all of the supplies used to make all of the cards that we talked about today. I'm Debbie from Simply Special Crafts. We'll see you next time.